Sanji would beat Zoro in a one-on-one fight.
You're bluffing.
Skywalk, Diablo Jump, a raid suit that increases defense and speed. Does that sound like a bluff to you? Not only is Sanji a better character, he was able to knock out Luffy with a kick to the head. Imagine what he would do with Zoro with the raid suit. I mean, Zoro did get knocked out by Kamazan.
You dare? You dare?
Oh, what's good, YouTube? Zoro versus Sanji. Is Zoro stronger than Luffy? Luffy. Well, that's a whole other debate that the fanbase has, that Zoro is stronger than Luffy.
Nani?
But I digress. Is Zoro stronger than Sanji? Is Sanji stronger than Zoro? Zoro versus Sanji. Sanji versus Zoro. Who's the better fighter? Who's the better character? This has been a long-running debate that's been going on in the fan base for many years, that's been spanning for almost 2 decades. Zoro and Sanji are considered to be the 2 strongest members on the Straw Hat crew behind Monkey D. Luffy. The rivalry between Zoro and Sanji started all the way back in Little Garden when they both hunted a monster and they were comparing on which one was bigger, kind of mirroring the rivalry between Brogy and Dory. Well, technically, the first time that Zoro and Sanji had their first little rivalry was back in Arlong Park when they had their first disagreement about how to deal with Nami. This is the first instance in the story where you get to see a disagreement between the two and the real difference between their personalities. And they're always seen competing with each other about something, strength, bounty. But throughout all the years of One Piece's serialization, we have yet to ever see Zoro versus Sanji in an actual one-on-one serious fight. Except for that one time in movie 5 when Zoro completely disrespected Sanji and beat him in like 5 seconds. Though throughout the story there has been instances where you can say that Zoro and Sanji are considered equals in power, but come on guys, it's anime, it's One Piece, the fan base doesn't like equals, there has to be a hierarchy, someone has to be stronger than the other. Yes, the Yonko are all equals in power, or so they say, but the fan base all know the reality of it. Someone has to be stronger than the other, right? Whenever Zoro gets a power-up, Sanji also gets a power-up, like in Enies lobby when Zoro started growing 3 other heads and 6 arms. Sanji learned Diablo Jambe. And recently in the Wano arc, Zoro just got a new sword, Enma, but Sanji also just got a new power-up called the Raid Suit. So you can kind of say that they're equal in powers and they're always neck and neck, side by side. Also, Sanji's bounties are usually higher than Zoro's initial bounty. For example, Zoro's first bounty was 60 million, Sanji's first bounty was 77 million, Zoro's second bounty was 160 million, Sanji's second bounty was 177 million, Zoro's third bounty was 320, Sanji's third bounty was 330 million. You get what I'm trying to say here? Although we all know that bounties aren't a good indicator to know a character's strength, and we all know that bounties don't actually reflect a character's strength, but just reflect a character's threat to the world. Oda does usually use bounties though as a way to gauge a character's power and their threat level. So the bounties between Zoro and Sanji is kind of Oda's way saying that they're both equal and both in the same ballpark of power, or it's just a sick joke of Oda and he's just fucking with our heads. But the whole point of this video is not just is Zoro stronger than Sanji, but also why do the fans think that Zoro is stronger than Sanji, as well as exploring the history between the 2 characters. One of the main reasons beside feats within the story that fans consider Zoro stronger than Sanji is actually because of the dreams that they both have, and more specifically Zoro's dream. And Zoro's dream is to become the strongest swordsman in the world. To achieve this dream, he has to become the strongest, the greatest in his craft, and he has to surpass a certain character that many consider Yonko level, and that is Dracul Hawkeye Mihawk, the man who was said to duel with red hair Shanks. Well, he dueled with Shanks before he became a Yonko, but that's not the point. For him to acquire his dream, he has to become strong. He has to be better than people like Mihawk, Shanks, the Dark King Rayleigh, Kozuki, Odin. These are considered one of the greatest swordsmen. Zoro has to surpass these characters, and the characters that I mentioned are no slouches. These are some of the strongest characters within the One Piece world, and to many people this means that Zoro has to surpass the 4 emperors, because one of the members of the 4 emperors used to duel with the greatest swordsman. Shanks used to duel with Mihawk, and we know that Shanks has gotten progressively stronger throughout the years, so that would mean that Zoro would have to surpass Shanks in swordsmanship. Also in the Wano arc, Zoro was able to gain possession of the sword Emma, which was previously owned by Kozuki Oden, and is one of 2 swords alongside Amine Habakiri that was able to give Kaido his one and only scar. People also always use the fact that Zoro is always fighting the second strongest person on the island, while Sanji fights the 3rd strongest person on the island, not including the boss that Luffy usually fights, except for that one time in Fishman Island when Zoro clapped Hody Jones's cheeks underwater in his own territory, in his own domain, but that's besides the point. The 2 most notable examples of this is when Zoro fought Mr. 1 in Alabasta while Sanji fought Mr. 2, and in Enies Lobby, Zoro fought Kaku while Sanji fought Jabra, and this is the first instance in the story where we get to have actual power levels with the Doriki system. The Doriki system is basically Scouter Ball, where they kick the shit out of Fukuro so he can gauge their power level. This was the first and only time that power levels is used in One Piece. Usually people use bounties. Kaku's Doriki being 2200 while Jabra's being 2180. Kaku only has 20 more than Jabra, and I think honestly this is probably the best way to describe the monster trio. Lucci was 4000, eclipsing the other 2, and I think that's the best way to describe is Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji. Like, Sanji and Zoro are very near each other by a small margin, and Luffy just eclipses both of them, especially with his gears 4th and all that. People don't really take into account the small margin between Jabra and Kaku, and they just see that Zoro fought Kaku, so therefore Zoro fought the stronger person, so therefore Zoro is the stronger of the 2. Now let's travel deep into the rabbit hole and enter Thriller Bark, the ending of Thriller Bark to be specific, and I'm talking about, we all know it, Big Daddy Bartholomew Kuma. First time when he put the Straw Hats over his knees and gave them the spanking of a lifetime. And that was at the end of Thriller Bark. You guys know exactly what I'm talking about. That famous scene of Zoro standing in his own blood and Sanji's like, hey dude, man, you look like you're hurting. What happened? And Zoro's like, nothing happened. And then he passes out. You know, this is the scene that we all show our friends when trying to get them into One Piece, as well as other scenes from Marineford. Am I the only one who shows my friends scenes from when Akainu is fighting Whitebeard and he rips off his majestic mustache and puts the 2 holes in his chest, and the Whitebeard's like, I am Whitebeard, and then he punches Akainu. I'm getting off topic, I'm sorry. I just wanted to know if I was the only person that shows my friends those scenes to try to get them into One Piece, because I'm kind of lonely and now I'm making YouTube videos about it because I have no one to talk to besides my one friend. Anywho, people love to bring up this scene because it shows Zoro's endurance and his durability by taking all of Luffy's pain and just standing there all night, which people presume he did, but I assume that he was knocked out. But then he woke up again when he heard Sanji was around the corner and he had to look cool. Because after round 1 of Zoro and Kuma, Bartholomew Kuma was like, I'm tired of this, and did his Ursa Shock, and the 2 people that basically got back up right after that were Zoro as well as Sanji. But then Zoro knocks Sanji out with the back of his sword, choosing himself to be the sacrifice to take Luffy's pain. I love this scene, everyone loves this scene. It shows the camaraderie between the Straw Hats and the love that they all have and how they sacrifice themselves for each other. As well as shows that the love, the brotherly bond that Zoro and Sanji have deep down, even though they're always arguing about something, they both care about each other and probably kiss each other when no one's around. Did I say that? You didn't hear anything. Huh? Now let's talk about the time skip where Zoro was training under the world's greatest swordsman, Dracul Hawkeye Mihawk, while Sanji was stuck on an island of Okamas with Ivankov, fending for his life for 2 years while also learning how to become a better cook. In the fans of many eyes, people consider this as concrete evidence that Zoro is in fact stronger than Sanji, because Zoro was off training with the world's greatest swordsman. While we don't know how the training exactly was going, compared to Ivankov, there is a vast difference. While I think Ivankov is no bitch and survived attacks from Akainu and Magellan both in one-on-one fights, which is a great feat in of itself, compared to Dracul Mihawk, who is the greatest swordsman in the world and once used to fight on par with Shanks, that doesn't really bode well for our boy Sanji. Now let's talk about post time skip, where we all have to admit the portrayal of Sanji hasn't been the best, especially compared to Zoro, the untouchable Zoro. Sanji hasn't been looking all that well. with the constant nosebleeds in Fishman Island, and most notably, people love to bring up the Punk Hazard situation when he fought Virgo and almost broke his leg. Even though Sanji was doing fairly well with Virgo, that people love to forget that Sanji was literally kicking Virgo all across the room, sending the dude flying and even making the dude bleed, but whatever. And then there's Dressrosa, where Sanji didn't really do much. But he did have a fight with Doflamingo, and Doflamingo did admit that he was a strong opponent, but then made quick work of Sanji. And then we didn't see Sanji for a whole 2 years until Whole Cake Island. And well, let's say Whole Cake Island was a mixed bag and a very controversial arc, where we thought we'd finally see Sanji shine and finally get the respect that he always deserved, and that Mr. Prince moment that we all loved back in Alabasta. The cool Sanji, the suave Sanji, the Sanji of old, the ass kicker, but we didn't really get to see that. While compared to Zoro, Zoro's been having a fairly easy time in the New World and actually hasn't really struggled up until recent. Zoro has made quick work with every opponent he's fought in the New World thus far, Monet, Hyozu, and Pika, being able to cut Pika in half when he was in mountain-sized form. The only time he's really struggled against was Fujitora, and well, Fujitori's an admiral, so even Sabo was having a little bit of trouble with him. And we can't forget about everyone's favorite characters, the Yeti Cool Brothers back in Punk Hazard, right? But things are finally starting to change in the Wano arc, with Zoro finally being able to struggle, getting knocked out by Kamazo, let's not forget that. And Sanji and Zoro both getting the respective upgrades, with Zoro getting Enma and Sanji getting the Raid Suit, both increasing their powers. Now with that being all said, people love to gas up Zoro to unfathomable heights, as well as the portrayal of Zoro and how his strength is going to be by end of series, and how he should surpass all these characters, Mihawk, Rayleigh, even Red Hair Shanks, who people all consider some of the strongest characters within the verse of the One Piece. Also, the portrayal of Sanji has been kinda poor fighting wise and power scaling wise post time skip. Also, Zoro's durability in his fights with several characters throughout the series, Kuma being the biggest example, taking all of Luffy's pain. But I don't think we should put aside Sanji's strength, because he is a very powerful and capable fighter himself. Also, compared to Zoro, Sanji has a lot more restrictions in his fighting style, in that he only uses his feet, kicks, and doesn't use his hands, doesn't hit women. He's probably a lot more prideful than Zoro, to be honest. And what Sanji lacks in power and I guess versatility compared to Zoro, Sanji makes up for it in intelligence as well as. Sanji is by far one of the most fastest members of the Straw Hat Pirates, being able to survive 10,000 meters underwater without being compressed and dying of pressure, and being able to match the speed and even surpassing the speed of a fishman underwater. Sanji can also light his leg on fire 10,000 meters underwater. Do you know how hot someone has to be to produce that type of heat? Sanji also possesses tremendous speed, where he is able to outspeed a high-ranking member of a Yonko's crew and being able to hit them without them even noticing what just transpired. An example being when he hit Oven, and Oven not even knowing what just happened, thinking that Pound was the one who attacked him. And this was before he gained possession of a Raid Suit. With the addition of the Raid Suit, Sanji has an increase in power, speed, as well as durability, and also has the ability to turn invisible. Sanji is seen taking a direct hit from one of the stronger members of the Beast Pirates, Page 1, and going through several buildings and having little to no damage. But anyways guys, this video is getting a bit long. I just really want to talk about if Zoro is truly stronger than Sanji, as well as why people think Zoro is stronger than Sanji, and wanted to give Sanji his fair share of things, because I think his feats and his powers, his abilities is often overlooked because of obviously his portrayal post time skip hasn't been the best. I think Zoro and Sanji is kind of the same and similar in strength. I know a lot of people look at Zoro end of series and how powerful he is going to be by the end of the series, surpassing so many characters. But I think Sanji is fairly capable in his own right. Also, I should add in the fact that pre-time skip, by the time they reach Saboti Archipelago, Sanji is not considered a supernova because his bounty doesn't reach 100 million by the time they reach the island, and a lot of people consider the supernovas a lot more higher than other pirates in the series because they're considered Luffy's rivals and they're all in like a same sphere of strength. Not all of them obviously, but you know, some people still take that into consideration. Anyways, Comment down below on who you think the stronger fighter is, Sanji or Zoro, or if you think they are equal in strength. Also, don't forget to rate the video, subscribe, and click the bell icon to stay notified. Follow me on Twitter, fly_flizzy, as well as follow me on Twitch, flyflizzy, where I stream 3 to 4 days a week. If I'm not here, I'm usually there. I hope you guys all have a great day, a good night. I'll see you later. Goodbye, stay fly. Toodles!